officer was shot, but saved by the fact that he was wearing obviously a very good bulletproof vest.
Stay back! Stay back! Watch out! Move!
Just totally unified. It was in one way very beautiful thing to see a man charge a security checkpoint armed with multiple
light chatter, glasses clinking, an evening of power and prestige unfolding normally. A room filled with influence. Top political leaders and journalists gathered for White House Correspondents Dinner at Washington Hilton Hotel. On stage, Donald Trump alongside the First Lady. The mood was relaxed, controlled and celebratory. One of the highlights of the evening, a live performance by a mentalist Oz Perlman, engaging the crowd, adding a touch of showmanship to a night of politics and power. But then, the mood shatters. The evening quickly turned into a nightmare. Panic spread in seconds and guests scrambled for cover. On the dais, security personnel rushed in and took President Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and the First Lady to safety.
But I said very importantly that we'll do it again within the next 30 days, and we'll make it bigger and better and even nicer. So I just want to thank everybody that was involved. I also want to thank the press, the media. You've been very responsible in your coverage. I will say I've been seeing what's been out. You've been very responsible. So Todd Blanche, I'd like to say a few words. I know we're going to have cash, and then you're going to go on. We can ask. I guess we can take a couple of questions. I want to thank the First Lady for that was a rather traumatic experience for her. There was a lot of action taking place up there very quickly, but again, the response time was really incredible. And we're going to reschedule. We're going to do it again. We're not going to let anybody take over our society. We're not going to cancel things out because we can't do that. We wanted to stay tonight. I will tell you, I fought like hell to stay.
Within seconds, the venue descended into disarray. A highly secured event, now a zone of fear.
In the ballroom at the Hilton in Washington, what I witnessed firsthand was a loud sound first, and to my mind it was probably dishes that were clattering, but within seconds I saw the servers rushing in with their trays and trying to see a secure place to keep themselves safe. And that's when I thought that something was not right. And we, the entire table, took cover under the table, and we were all on the ground. When I got up and when I knew that it was safe now to get up, what I witnessed on the stage was security agents on the stage with long guns. It was probably the SWAT team that was here. And of course, POTUS was ushered out. And then one by one, all his cabinet members, including Scott Bessent, Kash Patel, Pete Hegseth, Whitcock, they were all ushered out and taken to a secure place. Of course, there are reports saying that this was probably a gunman that opened fire, but we don't have any confirmed reports on that. The program is supposed supposed to resume shortly. That's what has been announced. But we still don't have anything from the association. So overall, this was the first time that President Trump participated in this dinner, and we're just waiting for authorities to tell us what really transpired here.
Law enforcement has requested that we leave the premises consistent with protocol. And he wanted to emphasize that nobody was hurt. He and the First Lady, the cabinet, everybody's safe. The president will be having a press briefing at the White House in 30 minutes. That is not a joke. And he insists that we will reschedule this event in the next 30 days. And that he wanted to do it tonight. He wanted to continue despite the news, but has to follow security protocol.
And just few minutes later, Trump released a dramatic CCTV video of the shooter on social media. The video shows the moment the suspect in the shooting at the White House Correspondents Dinner runs past the security. Trump revealed that the shooter has been taken into custody.
Let's take a look at the sequence of events as the shooting unfolded. So first, of course, the event begins, it kicks off, and dinner time is scheduled for 8 p.m. And then right after that, around 30 minutes into the event, the gunshots are heard. Around 2,600 attendees were present for the event, the White House Correspondents Dinner. Donald Trump then arrives with First Lady Melania Trump. And then around 8:30 to 8:40, that's the timeline. Between 8:30 to 8:40 is when the gunshots are fired. Now, top officials, media and celebrities are all in attendance. In all, 2,600 people are present inside that room. Like I said, half an hour into the event, gunshots heard around 8:30 to 8:40. Reports suggest that 5 to 8 shots were fired. The firing took place near the magnetometer or the security screening area. Assailant attempts breach of secured zone. Now that leads to panic inside the ballroom. Attendees duck under tables and the Secret Service storms inside the room. Trump and Melania, of course, they briefly take cover behind the stage under the table. Then the president and the First Lady, along with the Vice President J.D. Vance, are all evacuated immediately by the Secret Service. The suspect is apprehended thereafter, shooter overpowered and taken into custody. Male shooter fired at one Secret Service agent. One officer was hit in bulletproof vest. No serious injuries reported. Then Donald Trump is confirmed to be safe. He himself puts out a message saying he's safe. Melania Trump and J.D. Vance also are safe, and no civilian casualties have been reported. White House dinner is then suspended after all these developments, after all this transpires. Now, even as the immediate threat was contained and the suspect was detained, several key questions remain unanswered. What are the questions that we are looking at? Let's in fact take a look here on the big screen. These are the unanswered questions. How did a gunman reach a high security event? Remember, the President of United States of America was present inside the ballroom during the event along with other dignitaries. Was this a failed target Trump attempt? Was this an assassinate Trump ploy? Was POTUS in direct line of fire? Is this a lone wolf act, or there is a larger plot behind it? These are some unanswered questions at the moment.
A 31-year-old California teacher, armed with a shotgun, was swiftly apprehended by the Secret Service. And then, 1 hour later, he addressed the nation from the White House, calling the shooter sick, crazy, and whack.
The man has been captured. They're going to his apartment. I guess he lives in California. And he's a sick person, a very sick person. And we don't want things like this to happen. I think it's very important that I say, though, and I told the representatives of the evening, they did such a beautiful job. It was such a beautiful evening. And again, they're talking about free speech in our Constitution. That's what it's all about, not just White House Correspondents. It was really based on free speech and our Constitution. I want to thank the First Lady that was a rather traumatic experience for her. There was a lot of action taking place up there very quickly.
As Trump ruled out the Iran link, documents reveal the shooter's link to the Democratic campaign and the opposition party.
Well, all you can do, look, I don't care how many people you have, how good they are. They can be the greatest people. You have the greatest security in history. If you have a whack job who's got a brain, but it's a little bit distorted or a lot distorted, they can make trouble. I would say, Pete, right? You know, they can make trouble. Some of these people are of genius level IQ, and they're nuts. So it can be trouble. So you do absolutely the best. You get the best. We have the best people. Well, look, it was proven tonight. He started running from 50 yards, and he was fast. He was like a blur on tape. He was moving. It was very impressive the way they got him, because a lot of people would be looking and saying, you know, it's like a weird feeling, and they would let him get through, but they didn't let him get through. They drew those guns so fast. They looked like Matt Dillon. They looked like somebody that knew what they were doing, and we really do. But it comes with the territory. And if you want to do a great job, I really believe that. And you take a look at what's happened to some of our greatest presidents, and it doesn't happen to people that don't do anything. And it's not going to deter me from winning the war in Iran. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I really don't think so, based on what we know. But we're going to continue to do a great job. That's all I can do.
At about that time, Secret Service agents stopped the suspect. An agent was injured and transported to a local hospital where the agent is receiving care. The suspect is also transported to a local hospital where he is being evaluated. The president returned safely to the White House, as you know. We are so very thankful to members of law enforcement who did their jobs tonight and made sure that all guests were safe. We have no reason to believe at this time that anyone else was involved.
Donald Trump also suggested he may have been the target of the shooting.
Were you aware of any threats? Was your team aware of any threats beforehand? And do you believe you were the target of this tonight?
I guess. I mean, these people they're crazy. They're crazy, and you know, you never know. He was very far away from me. He had to go through a lot. We had resources all over. We had resources sitting at tables, literally in disguise, sitting maybe at your table. Who knows? But we had people all over the room, so he had a long way to go. That was really a first line of defense, and they got him. And they really, you know, they acted incredibly. No, there was no notification. We had no idea. Go ahead, Kevin.
This was the third assassination attempt on Donald Trump in the last 3 years. The first was in July 2024 at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, where a gunman opened fire, grazing Trump in the ear. The second came in September 2024 when Ryan Rout was arrested near Mar-a-Lago with a rifle and surveillance gear and charged with attempted assassination. And the third happened just hours ago.
This is the last assassination attempts which have happened. We're telling you, in fact, one of the questions which was put to him, why is it that again and again he finds himself on target of such shooters? To which he said it is because he's a man of impact, a president of impact, just like Abraham Lincoln. In fact, this is what had happened. Just a quick reminder, the 4 leaders who have been killed while they were holding the office of being the US president. You, of course, had Abraham Lincoln. He was shot on 14th of April, 1865. He died a day later. After that, he was assassinated, remember, by John Wilkes Booth. These are all the presidents who have been in the past found themselves on target because of the post and the position that they have held. In fact, there's also James Garfield. He was shot on the 2nd of July, 1881. He died on 19th of September. September, he was assassinated by a man called Charles J. Guillory. In fact, this also had happened in Washington at a train station. Then there was another president, William McKinley. He was shot on the 6th of September in 1901. He also died on the 17th of September. He was assassinated by a man called Leon Cortez. In fact, this was on the Pan American Expo in New York, where the then sitting president was shot dead. After that, of course, the infamous murder of John F. Kennedy. He was shot fatally on 22nd of November in 1963. He was assassinated by a man named Lee Harvey Oswald. In fact, this had happened at a Dealey Plaza in Dallas while he was in an open car rally along with the First Lady in a car. That is when there was a sniper bullet which killed him. Now, as chaos unfolded today at the high security venue, let's also relive the moments as to what had happened in the past as well. In fact, these are the 3 different times when there were assassination bids which had happened on President Trump. And this is very interesting. This was in July 2024, where a man had, remember, shot at President Trump with a sniper gun. In fact, that bullet came very, very close to the president. In fact, zipped past through his ear. A few drops of blood also dripped down the president's collar. But he was saved by a whisker, literally saved by a whisker in this. There were bullets fired at the president at this rally in Pennsylvania. And interestingly, this was right ahead of his re-election bid, after which there was a huge sympathy for him and he did return to power. There was another one which happened in Florida outside his residence where he was. This was in September 2024. However, the shooter in this case never managed to get anywhere close to the president. He was actually apprehended with an AK-47 outside the entire perimeter of security. But this is what we are discussing today. Earlier tonight, we saw the visuals of firing which had happened on the president. This is the very prestigious White House Correspondents Dinner. Now remember, this is one of the most powerful dinners which is being hosted by none other than President himself. He went there, all guns blazing speech. There were shots which were fired outside.
The shooting incident has put the spotlight on the Washington Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C. The venue of the high-profile dinner was the same hotel where an attempt on the life of the President Ronald Reagan was made in 1981. In fact, it is also known as the Reagan Hotel. More than 40 years ago, a gunman tried to kill the then US President Ronald Reagan but failed. And years later, many questions remain unanswered. What was the motive, and was the president the target? The truth is still out there. A special report for Times Now.